everyone. In our today's video, we are going to be continuing with circulation in animals. So in our previous video, we have discussed already about the first component of the circulatory system, which was the blood. In our today's video, let's see what and all we are going to be discussing. So we are going to be discussing about the blood vessels. We are going to be discussing about the types of the circulatory system. Then we are going to be discussing about the structure of human heart. Now first let's discuss about the blood vessels. Blood vessels are a very important component of the circulatory system. So blood vessels are nothing but branched tubes. So blood vessels are nothing but the branched tubes inside which the blood is going to be flowing. So now just consider this is a branched tube. This is a blood vessel. So inside this blood vessel only blood is going to be flowing. Okay, so blood vessels are nothing but tubes inside which the blood is going to be flowing. Now there are three different types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and then we have the capillaries. So now first let's see what are arteries. Arteries are thick and elastic blood vessels. Okay, and arteries are always going to carry blood away from the heart. So A for arteries and A for away. So please remember like that. Don't get confused. So arteries are always going to carry blood away from the heart. Now arteries always carry oxygenated blood. So all the arteries are going to be carrying oxygenated blood except one artery, which is the pulmonary artery. So pulmonary artery does not carry oxygenated blood, it carries deoxygenated blood. Okay. So arteries are going to be looking like this only. Okay. So structurally if you see, arteries are thick and they are elastic. Okay. So this is about the arteries. Alright. Now let's go on to the next blood vessels, which is the veins. So if we talk about veins, veins are thin and non-elastic. Okay, so veins are thin and non-elastic, and all the veins will carry blood towards the heart. So veins are going to carry blood towards the heart, and the type of blood which veins are going to be carrying is the deoxygenated blood, which means the blood which does not have oxygen. So deoxygenated blood is also known as the impure blood. Okay, so all the veins will be carrying deoxygenated blood. Here again there is an exceptional. The exceptional is the pulmonary vein. So the pulmonary vein is the vein which is going to be carrying oxygenated blood. Okay, now I will draw the structure of the veins for you. So this is how veins are going to be looking. So if you compare the arteries and the veins, there itself you can see the structural difference. You can see how thin the veins are when compared with the arteries. Arteries had a thick wall and veins are having thin walls. Okay, so I hope you understood veins now. Now let's move on to the capillaries. Capillaries are very tiny blood vessels, and in the capillaries only exchange of gases is going to be taking place. Okay, so in the capillaries only exchange of gases will be taking place. and these capillaries are made up of just a single layer of endothelial cells. Okay, so the capillaries are made up of only a single layer of the endothelial cells. Now let's discuss about the difference between the arteries and the veins. So the first difference is arteries are deep in location and veins are superficial in location. So what is the meaning of superficial? Superficial means it is going to be on the surface. So you will be able to see the veins very clearly on the surface of your body. But then you will not be able to see the arteries like that because arteries are very deep in location. Okay, so the second difference is arteries are going to be pink in color and the veins are going to be red in color. Okay. So the third difference is all the arteries are going to carry oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood or the pure blood. I told that there is one exception. So except one artery which is pulmonary artery. Okay. And when we talk about the veins, all the veins are going to be carrying deoxygenated blood except one vein which is the pulmonary vein. So the pulmonary vein alone carries oxygenated blood. So the fourth difference is arteries are thick and elastic. So when we talk about the walls of the arteries are thick and elastic. But the walls of the veins are thin and non-elastic. So the fifth difference is arteries do not have any valves. So what are valves? Valves ensure that the blood is going to be flowing only in one direction and it also ensures that there is no backflow of blood. So that is the work of valves. So in case of arteries there are no valves but veins have valves. Okay, so veins are going to be having valves. So this is the fifth difference. The sixth difference is the blood which is flowing inside the arteries are always going to be flowing with a high pressure. So the blood inside the arteries are going to be flowing with high pressure. And here in the veins, the blood is not going to be flowing with high pressure. So the blood is going to be flowing only with a low pressure. So now I will tell you why valves are absent in arteries and why valves are present in the veins. The reason behind this is because the blood which is flowing in the arteries are flowing with great pressure. So when the blood is flowing with great pressure, there is no possibility for the blood to flow back. Okay, so that is the reason why valves are not present in the arteries. But then inside the veins, the blood is flowing in a low pressure. So in that case, what might happen? There are a lot of chances for the blood to flow back. So to prevent the backflow of blood only, veins are having valves and arteries are not having valves. So this is about the difference between the arteries and veins. Now let's go on to discuss about the two types of circulatory system. So there are two types of circulatory system in animals. So one is open type and the other one is the closed type. So these are the two basic types of circulatory system which is seen in case of animals. So what is this open type? In case of open circulatory system, there is not going to be blood vessel, or in other words, the blood vessels are going to be very poorly developed. Okay, so in open circulation, the blood vessels are going to be poorly developed. Okay, so the blood will be pumped directly into the body cavity which is known as the hemocoel. So hemo means blood and coel means cavity. So the blood is going to be directly flowing into the cavities of the body, and this type of circulation is only known as open circulation. And the examples of this are arthropods, ascidians. Now let's move on to the closed type of circulatory system. So closed type of circulatory system is seen in case of all the vertebrates. So in the closed circulatory system, the blood is going to be flowing inside a complete blood vessel. So this type of circulation where the blood is flowing inside a complete blood vessel, and through the blood vessel only the blood is going to reach each and every part of the body, is known as closed type of circulation. And the example here is the vertebrates. So in all the vertebrates, they are going to be observing closed type of circulatory system. Now let's move on to discuss about the next component of the circulatory system, which is the structure of human heart. Human heart is a conical muscular organ, and the main function of human heart is to pump the blood to various parts of our body. So the human heart is made up of a special type of muscle which is known as the cardiac muscle. So cardiac muscle is a very special type of muscle because it is going to be beating continuously, it is going to be working continuously, and that is why it is a very special type of muscle. So where is the human heart located? So the human heart is located in the mediastinum. So what is this mediastinum? Mediastinum is nothing but the gap which is present in between the two lungs. So in that gap only the human heart is going to be present, and that gap which is there between the two lungs is only known as the mediastinum. Okay, and the human heart is slightly tilted towards the left. When we talk about the size of the human heart, it is about the size of your closed fist. Now let's go into discuss about the detailed structure of the human heart. So the human heart is enclosed inside a protective covering which is called as the pericardium. So pericardium is actually a double membrane. Okay, so it is made up of a double membrane pericardium. And in between the two membranes, so just imagine that this is going to be the double membrane pericardium. In between the two membranes there is a space, and this space is called as the pericardial space. This pericardial space is filled with a fluid which is called as the pericardial fluid. So this pericardial fluid will act as a lubricant. Okay, so it reduces the friction which is there in the two membranes. So what is going to happen is when the heart is beating, the two membranes are going to rub against each other. So when the two membranes are rubbing against each other, there are a lot of possibilities for that outer protective membrane to get damaged. So in order to overcome this pericardial fluid is going to act as a lubricant, thereby preventing the friction which is there between the two membranes when the heart is beating. So that is the reason why the pericardial fluid is present. So when we talk about the human heart is a four-chambered heart. Mammalian heart is a four-chambered heart. Okay, so the upper two chambers are called as the auricles and the lower two chambers are called as the ventricles. So I will write that for you. So this is the right auricle and this is the left auricle. So this is the right ventricle and this is the left ventricle. So the upper two chambers are called as the auricles and the lower two chambers are known as the ventricles. Now here if you see, I have drawn this part, this side as your right, and I have mentioned that this part is your left. Okay, so in all the diagrams, if you take from your textbook, any diagram if you see, the right side is going to be considered as your left side and your left side is going to be considered as your right side. So have you ever wondered, so why these image parts are reversed, or it is the right side is named as left and the left side is named as right? Okay, so the reason being, this is based on the point of inspection. So if you go to a doctor, so what will a doctor do? Doctor is going to inspect you. Am I right? So when you go to a doctor and when you face him, for the doctor, your right is going to be his left and your left is going to be his right side. Alright. So from the lower classes, if you take all the biology diagrams, it is going to be reversed only because it is based on the point of inspection of the doctor. Okay, so I said first the upper two chambers are called as the auricles and the lower two chambers are called as the ventricles. So the auricles are the receiving chambers of the heart. So auricles are also known as atria. I forgot to mention that. Okay, so auricles are always the receiving chambers of the heart. So receiving chambers means they are always going to receive the blood. And ventricles are going to be the pumping chambers of the heart. So ventricles will always pump the blood to different parts of our body and to the lungs as well. Okay. Now, all the four chambers are separated by a partition which is called as the septum. So all the four chambers are separated, okay, by a partition which is known as the septum. So why is this separation actually there? So this separation prevents the mixing of deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood. So that is the reason why the septum is going to be present, okay. So when we talk about the right side of your heart, the right side of the heart usually contains the deoxygenated or the impure blood, and the left side of the heart usually contains the oxygenated or the pure blood. Okay. So in order to prevent the mixing of blood which is there in the different chambers only, this partition which is known as septum is present. Okay. Now let's see what are the partitions or what are the septums which are present in between the chambers. So in between the two auricles, there is a septum which is known as interatrial septum. So in between the two auricles, this partition which is known as the interatrial septum is there. So in between the ventricles, so which is the right ventricle and the left ventricle. So in between the two ventricles, there is a septum which is known as interventricular septum. Okay. Now there is also a septum between the right auricle and the right ventricle. It's called as the right atrioventricular septum. Similarly, there is going to be a septum which is present in between the left auricle and the left ventricle, and this septum is known as left atrioventricular septum. So now let's discuss about the valves which are present in the heart. So I already told you what are valves when we discussed about the veins. Okay. So valves are nothing but flaps. Okay. So valves are nothing but muscular flaps which is going to prevent the backflow of blood, and it is also going to ensure that the blood is flowing in only one direction. Okay. So it prevents the backflow of blood and it also ensures that blood flows in a unidirection. So there are three types of valves which are present in the human heart. The first valve, right atrioventricular valve. Okay. So this right atrioventricular valve is present on the right side. Okay, it is present on the right side of the heart. So what you are seeing here is only the right atrioventricular valve. Okay, so this right atrioventricular valve is also known as the tricuspid valve. So it's also called as the tricuspid valve. So the reason why it is known as tricuspid valve is because it has got 3 flaps. That is why it is known as the tricuspid valve. Now let's go on to the next valve, which is the left atrioventricular valve. So where is this left atrioventricular valve going to be present? So it is present on the left side of the heart. Okay. So this atrioventricular valve is also known as mitral valve or the bicuspid valve. Okay, so again, why is it called bicuspid valve? The reason why it is called bicuspid is because it is going to have 2 flaps. So that is why it is called as the bicuspid valve. So the next valve is going to be semilunar valve. So the reason why it is called semilunar valve is because it is like a half moon shape. That is why it is called as semilunar valve. Semi means half and lunar means moon. So as this flap is going to look like a moon, half moon, that is why it is known as the semilunar valve. So this semilunar valve is of 2 types. Okay, so one is the aortic valve and the other one is the pulmonary valve. Aortic valve and the pulmonary valve will ensure that there is no backflow of blood into the ventricles of the heart. Okay, so this is the pulmonary valve and this is the aortic valve. Okay, so this pulmonary valve and this aortic valve is going to be present where the major blood vessels are going to be leaving the heart. Okay, so there are 2 major blood vessels in the heart. One is the aorta and the other one is the pulmonary artery. Okay, so these are the 3 types of valves. Now I will tell you also about the blood vessels which are related with the heart. Okay, so this blood vessel that you are seeing right now is known as the superior vena cava. Okay, and this blood vessel which you are seeing here is known as the inferior vena cava. Okay, and then I already told you this is the aorta, which is the biggest blood vessel which is there in the heart, and this is the pulmonary artery, and what I have drawn here, okay, is the pulmonary vein. Okay, so I hope you understood the structure of the human heart. So if you are having any doubts, you can leave that in the comment section below. Thank you.